David, I'm not a baseball aficionado. I like the game. One of my favorite things about baseball, quite honestly, is sitting in the stands and having a cold beer and just watching. I don't quite understand the intricacies, but I do know that the pitcher is really important. And that's what you did, man, for 21 years. And as the pitcher goes, so goes the team. At least in my baseball virgin eyes. Is that accurate? I mean, how important is a pitcher? If you were to give it a percentage, and I know it's a team sport and you got to have everything, but how important is it, man, to have a go-to guy, a starter that is just overwhelming like you were with your fastball? I assume that's why you got your nickname Boomer.
No, I wish it was.
Well, let's start there, man. I know you've told it a million times, but how did you get your name Boomer, the nickname Boomer?
It's just a simple story. I went to instructional league in 1982 after I signed out of high school. And so instructional league is after the season, they pick all like top players from rookie ball to AAA, and they come down here to Florida and play games and just test out. The guys that are rookies are playing against guys in AAA, so you're honing your skills, seeing if you can compete with that level. But it's usually the top draft picks that come down too as well, and so Lloyd Mosby and Jesse Barfield came down to after the season to get some extra work in. So I'm out there on the mound. I'm trying to get these guys out because I'm facing big league hitters. Well, there was a guy named Greg Wells, and he left a couple years before I got there, I think, or whatever. And he went to the Japanese league, and they called him Boomer. Greg Wells was Boomer. David Wells, now I'm Boomer. That's all I got, bro. That's
fine. That's good. But
that's all I got.
But it stayed with you, and to be able to do what you did for 21 years, I did it for 25 years as a specialist. You did it. I mean, you did it playing 30 plus games a year, and I imagine, what is it, a 4 or 5 day rotation, pretty much, as your starter?
5 days. Sometimes you can go 4, depending on who's up for it on the on the rotation. I remember in Baltimore, we were struggling with a 5th starter. And so we had the opportunity to go to a 4-man rotation. And Mike Messina didn't want to do it. He wanted to stay on his 5 days, every 5 days. I'm like, Mike, we're going to get more starts. That means more wins, ability, patting your stats that way. And he didn't want to do it. So they would use relievers, guys to spot start until they groomed a guy or they brought another guy in, and that's what we did. But normally it's a five man. Back in the day, it was the same pitcher every game. Then it went to 2, then to 3, and then all of a sudden you get your relievers. So it made the game, it gave guys a lot more rest. So it was better on the arms. The more rest you can get, the more beneficial it's going to be to you, physically. But, there's no guarantees. You might get knocked out in the first inning, or you might go 9. You might go the whole game. Who knows?
And you did several times. And I know another subject matter you've talked about a lot is your perfect game with the Yankees. And you do it. I mean, there's only 23 guys have had a perfect. 2 other Yankees.
Yep.
And you throw a perfect game. Take me through that experience of at what point do you realize something special is about to happen? I know you've told the story a lot, but come on. I mean, it is synonymous with you, and it is such an amazing milestone. I mean, think about it, 21 years in the bigs, right?
Yeah.
And one perfect game. It'd be like me hitting a 75-yard field goal. I mean,
exactly. You'd be the only one to do it. Yeah, exactly.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And maybe nobody else would do that ever again. But perfect games are, what has to happen besides you just being on point? And I mean, were you in, did you have clarity of mind? Or were you, you know?
There was no clarity at all.
Take me through it, man.
Yeah, well, it started the night before. I went to Saturday Night Live and went to the after party till 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning,
What?
and just getting my drink on with the cast. And having a 1 o'clock game the next day wasn't too good because I only got a couple hours of sleep and I was legally drunk. Drove my ass to the stadium, and when I got into the stadium, David Cohn's like, "Dude, go hide. You stink. You smell like a brewery."
Oh my God.
So
was
having that, and knowing that you got to pitch and keep the team in the game, because if I went out there and didn't make it and I was out in the first inning, I probably would have got fined, suspended, or whatever. So I was just doing everything. I was drinking a lot of coffee, a lot of water, trying to go through my routine that I always go through. And it sucked. It really did. Cause I was, sweating bullets. I was running to the bathroom. Luckily it wasn't coming out of both ends. It was just one end.
Were you throwing up?
No, not at all.
It was the other. Oh, gotcha.
It was the other, just, that, because, all that alcohol, all that caffeine that I drank about 5-6 cups of coffee. You know what coffee does to you.
Oh, yeah, it's a diuretic. Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
It's like throwing in a dip for people who dip.
Oh.
It's just instant. So, doing all that and not eating. So, and then having to go out there and compete. And it wasn't very good, Mort. It was a struggle, but, I ended up having a really, really bad warm up. And I cut it off short. And then I said, if this is as good as it's going to get, let's go. And I went out there, and the first pitch is about 95 down the middle. I'm like, whoa, where'd that come from? And then, so I got out of the first inning, got out of the second inning, got out of the third inning. And I'm just like, wow, there's something, this is going. And I went inside to get a water into the lounge. And I heard Michael Kay and John Sterling saying, David Wells got a perfect game. And I just ran out of the lounge. You don't want to hear that.
Oh, at what point did you what inning did you feel like you were sober? Or were you not sober the whole game?
About the fifth inning, I started feeling human again. So then that's when kind of everything locked in, and now I knew what was going on. And just trying to keep my composure.
So it was kind of like fasten your seatbelts for 5 innings. Let me get to a point where I can control it, where I'm in charge.
Exactly. So basically that's what I did. And then after a while, nobody, like, I'd go sit next to somebody and they get up and walk away. So nobody wanted to come near me. So now I felt like, I was out there by myself. Nobody in the dugout would talk to me. They would avoid me at all costs. So it was like, I would walk down the dugout and it would just be, guys would get out of my way. I'm like, come on, guys, it's just a game.
Your breath might have had something to do with it.
Probably, but it just, you got other guys behind you to help this out, which I needed to help. Obviously, I struck out, I think, 11 guys that day, so that's only 11 outs.
Yeah.
So I needed there's 27 outs. So 16 more outs are what? My math is bad. I told you I'm an athlete, not a man.
11 and 16, baby.
11 and 16. There you go. So, the other 11 outs came with the guys behind me, and they can't make an error. They can't do anything. I can't walk anybody. They can't make an error. So, and it happened. It was just, the stars were lined up right. And to me, it was something that you have to, you embrace it when it happens. You're still in shock, but after you do it, they carried me off the field, which was really cool. Yeah. And then the media came in, and and then you're answering questions for an hour plus. I just wanted to get the hell out of there and go drink again. I just had a great day on a stupor.
You were waiting for Sunday Night Live, man.
That it's kind of like when we're up in Michigan at Gibby's event and we're at the bar. And then the next day, you're like, "Oh my God, what did I do last night?"
I don't remember any of that.
No, me either. So it was all right.
So, hey, David, at what point are you saying to yourself, or was it never that, we got a chance here for a perfect game, and of course, depending on other guys, like you said, that's coming behind you.
Mm-hmm.
But was there a point in the game where you were like, this something special is about to go down here?
Well, after the fifth inning, I knew what was going on. So that alone, you're just trying to keep your composure, just trying to play catch with your catcher. That's all I tried to do. Just make my pitches, hit my spots, and once you get in a groove, you just try to stay in that groove, and that's all you're doing is focusing. And I remember there was an at bat with Paul Molitor, and I got to 3-2, and the 2-2 pitch was right there. The 2-2 pitch was a sinker down and away for strike 3, and the ump called it a ball. And actually, it's an umpire you probably know because he went to Michigan State, Tim McClellan.
Mm-hmm.
And so Tim, he was a Spartan, but he was a veteran umpire, and so and he liked more veteran players. I was a veteran player at that time, but not Paul Molitor status. And so I was in disbelief, but I couldn't show him up. So I threw the exact same pitch, 3-2, and Paul swung over it and strike 3. And that was kind of the most critical part in the game, I think, was that at bat. And then Ron Coomer hit a line drive to Chuck Knobloch, which I thought hit off his chest. And Chuck had the yips. So he couldn't, he had the Steve Sax syndrome, man. He couldn't throw the ball at first or anywhere.
Ooh, I remember that.
And he threw a strike to first. So it was great. And so those were like the only 2 incidences in the game that really, that kind of really solidified the perfect game.
How big a help was Jorge Posada? I mean, I know the pitcher-catcher relationship is so important. The communication, the signs, of course, the trust that he calls the right thing for you. And I guess you can wave it off. I'm not really sure about the intricacies of how that works, but I mean, it's up to you what you want to throw. So let's take the pitch, the 3-2 pitch to Molitor. You have a go-to pitch when it's a full count, or does it vary depending on the?
I don't like throwing off speed pitches 3-2. I like to come right after them. I'd rather give up a hit than a walk, because walks normally score. But that's a great question, because I don't care what catcher it was in my career, and I had a lot of them. You have to be on the same page. They got to think like you. They got to know what you want to throw in certain counts, like you said. That's huge, because if you're sitting out there and you're shaking, it becomes frustrating. Yeah. And then it takes a lot of time. Then you're pissed, and then he gets pissed, but they might see something that I don't. Mm-hmm. So he might see the hitter moving in the box. Mm-hmm. He might move up. Mm-hmm. He might move back in the box. He might move away. So those are the things I don't see. So that's where the trust and the catcher comes in, and because he sees everything from back there. So you have to trust your catcher 100%, because if you're not on board, you're going to have a long season.
What was your relationship with Posada, and was it more intense and more special than other players because of the connection that you had to have?
No, we were friends. We were good teammates. We didn't hang out a whole lot, but we respected one another, because he's my catcher. He was my guy. It was like Steve Carlton had Bob Boone. Mm-hmm. Certain guys like certain catchers. I don't care who catches me, because I make their job easy, because I know how to hit a gnat's ass at 60 feet 6 inches. So to me, I made the job easier. But it's just, but I make sure that they're on the same page with me, on pitches that I throw. Hitters, certain hitters, that I struggle with. That's where I need their expertise, that they might know that I might not know. So, but Jorge and I had a great relationship. We're still friends to this day. Yeah. He's probably one of the best catchers I've ever thrown to. And, and I don't know about his Hall of Fame status. That's up to the writers and all that, but he has my vote. That's for sure.
Right. Is there a team, you played for 9 teams, David? Is there a team you associate with more? Is it the Yankees because of the perfect game? Is it the Padres because, you're a Cali guy, the Dodgers, the Detroit Tigers with Kirk Gibson?
Yeah.
What was like the connection? Was there a team where you say, man, I feel connected here?
Well, I mean, I didn't feel connected with Toronto, who I came up with for 10 years. I didn't feel connected with them because I was always button heads with management, with front office, all
Mhm,
that kind of stuff. So it wasn't very fun for me in that aspect. You know, the
mhm.
team was great. The guys are always awesome. But when you're struggling within, with managers, with coaches, with front office personnel, ownership, whether it be GM, it's tough. But my connection when I got released by Toronto and I went to Detroit, I was like I was in heaven because I got with a manager who I respected, and he had all the faith and ability in me to go out there and do the job. And that was Sparky Anderson. And Sparky Anderson,
The
God
best.
rest his soul, was the best manager I've ever had. Jim Fregosi, when I was in Toronto my second term, was a great manager as well. But to me, when you feel wanted, and
Yeah.
that's what Detroit really meant a lot to me because of Sparky. And the team was great. I mean, we had veteran guys. You got Tram, who was the captain
Oh,
of the team,
yeah.
and he made sure the clubhouse was in a good frame of mind, because we had a lot of good guys on. We had some crazy some bitches like Gibby, Rob
Ooh,
Deere, a few guys that were
I
Mike
mean,
Henneman. He was a nut job too. But to me, it's you got these veteran guys who knew how to do it. But what pissed me off about Sparky, he'd always play for the 3-run homer instead of getting a guy over and win 1-0. He wants to win 5-0. So that was the hard part to getting around Sparky. But he taught me so much in the game, and about life
yeah.
as well. And it kind of grew me later on in my career, because I'd always go
Mhm.
back to Sparkyisms and just what he taught me as a human being, and that paid off.
Well, what was your secret sauce, David? I mean, 21 years in the big leagues. I know you're a gamer. That I get the feeling from I've met you a few times. I get the feeling that you really embrace the big moments. You like it. Like you don't strike me as a person who really gets nervous too much.
No,
Um,
not and you know what? And that's another great question, because when I went to Detroit and when I met Kirk Gibson and I started hanging out with Gibby,
yeah.
and let me tell you something, his mindset was way different than anybody else's I've ever met. And you know that for a fact.
So competitive.
Very. And you know what? And he was that guy. Let me be the hitter. I want to make the last out, or I want to be the hero or the goat. And
Come
he
on.
embedded that in my mind, and he wasn't afraid to fail. And that's the key, is
Mm,
don't be afraid to fail. If you can accept your failures, you're going to be great.
yeah.
And even if it's not, doesn't look good on your resume, but it might be lead to something after your career into something else, because you still have that mentality
Yeah.
of being great. And to me, I would rather be great than good. I want to be great at everything I do. And then to do that, you have to put in the work, but you have to believe in it, and that's something that you want to do. And from that 1993 to the end of my career, I wasn't afraid to fail, and I took that bulldog mentality, that fu mentality. You're not going to beat me. I'm the man out here. And you know what? And it paid off, because I got a lot of people in the game. You can ask probably every hitter that I faced. I came after them. I didn't beat around the bush. They knew when I was on the mound that day, you know, they had to swing, because I was coming after them, because I didn't walk anybody. So, and that's a good feeling. That's respect from your peers, to do that. Because I respect a lot of people I played with. There's some guys I don't, but still, if they're your teammate and you don't like them. And Gibby, again, we had a guy who crossed the lines. He was a scab, and when they crossed the lines and he ended up staying, Gibby got right in his face. He says, "Listen," and he scared the hell out of him. It was unbelievable. I laughed because I thought it was funny. But he got in his face and says, "Listen, I don't respect you. I hate you." He goes, "Don't come near me. Don't come around me." He goes, "But you know what? I'm your teammate, so I'm pulling for you. I will shake your hand after the game, and that's it. Stay away from me. But you're my teammate." And that was like, wow, that was pretty heavy. But the guy took a lot of jobs, and if you're in a union or whatever it is and you're a scab, you better face the music. And a lot of guys, crossed the line and stayed. There was a lot of guys that did it, but they don't have a lot of respect from the players, and that's something that it's tough to deal with.
And we had the same thing in 82 and 87, 2 strikes in the NFL. The first one for player benefits, the second one for free agency. People forget that we're out there with signs, and in 87, they brought replacement players in. It was ugly. It was an ugly scene. And to this day, I still had guys that, crossed over. I certainly didn't. There's no chance I was going to do that. But there are guys that do that, and I just see Gibby get in this guy's face. He was Gibby was very uncompromising in what he demanded of himself, and in turn what he demanded of his teammates. I think, I played at Michigan State. He was a senior when I was a freshman. He was a wide receiver. He ran a 4.24 40. He was an incredible athlete, All-American football, All-American baseball. So that's a special dude. They don't come around like Gibby, but once in a century maybe.
No, you're right, and those are the guys you want to resonate with, that you want to learn from, and you know what, and that's the thing that in my struggles when I was there, Sparky he'd come next to me, sit down, or call me in his office. He goes, "Listen, I see you struggling." He goes, "You're gonna have to figure it out. I can't give you all the answers, but I can help you out." He goes, "Do yourself a favor. Go talk to the hitters. You want to learn how to pitch? Go talk to the hitters. They're your teammates. They're not going to steer you wrong." First guy I went to was Gibby. Then I went to Tram. Then I would go to the power hitters. Then I would go to the finesse hitters. Ask him. I was sitting next to him when there's an at-bat going on. What would you do in this situation? What would you be looking for with a guy like me? Guys coming after you. That helped me out a lot. And so talking to your hitters, talking to your peers, because they're going to give you information that is there at hand. You don't need these computers. You don't need all these sabermetrics, the analytics of the game. They've been there since day one. It just took some crunching number guru, college, we call them back into the geeks because of the glasses on, and they were smart as hell, and no disrespect, but to me, they changed the game. Billy Bean went up in Oakland. They changed the game when it came to that. Looking at stats, some of it is helpful, but you can't program everybody to do it. Everybody's different. When the playoffs come, it's a whole different ball game. Something changes.
Everything's churned up.
Yep, and you might go 0 for 4 off that guy during a season, but you might go 4 for 4 off of him in a playoff game because something different clicks. So it's hard to tell.
So when you said you were struggling, was it you weren't finding the strike zone, or you walking guys, or you giving up big runs? What?
Big runs.
Uh-huh.
A lot of home runs, a lot of hits. And my job is to keep the team in the ball game. My job is to go 9, and that's a good thing about Sparky. If you were pitching your butt off, he didn't care. You're staying in there. He didn't want Mike Hanneman coming in. He wanted you to go out there and finish the game. And that was awesome for me, because that gave me the mentality. It's like, I'm not coming out of the game. So then when I went to New York in 97 and 98, Joe Torre would come out and get the ball for me. I'm like, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I'm bringing in Mo." I said, "No, you're not. It's my game. I'm finishing it." He goes, you pitched a good game. I said, "Yeah, well, I'm going to pitch a better game. Get the hell off the mound and let me finish this game." So that was just the mentality that I took into my starting pitching ability, because that was my job, to go 9. If I'm laboring and all that, then I totally understand. But if I got a gym going and my pitch, I didn't give it 2 craps about the pitch count. I remember I threw 150. It's like 156 or 158 pitches in a game. I only got 8 2/3. Sparky came out and got me. He says, "What's the matter?" I said, "I don't know. I can't get this last out." He called me a he did it twice. He called me a twice because I couldn't finish the game. He goes, "Now I got to come out and get you because you're at the 160 mark." And I'm like, "So?" He goes, "I need you for your next start." So that's good enough. So that was
that's Sparky.
That's him. That was the beauty of it.
David, so by my count, you've played, you pitched I got like at such a high level, obviously, but 19 Hall of Famers. You played with 19 pitchers who are in the Hall of Fame. I've been on the ballot. So of all those pitching talents that you played with, was there, I'm curious if there was a one pitcher that had a bigger impact on you throughout your life, somebody you kind of wanted to emulate. This guy's a baller. He's doing it the right way. I can, I admire this guy. I want to, I can learn from him. Was there a pitcher?
Well, I grew up being a Ron Guidry and Steve Carlton fan. And Steve Carlton and I had the same mechanics. Well, I had the same as him. But, Ron Guidry, you couldn't repeat those mechanics. He was all over the damn place, and he was unbelievable and my idol. And so was Steve Carlton. So I would kind of emulate Steve Carlton, and try to pitch like him because he was just so powerful and impactful to me as a pitcher. But when I got to the big leagues, and I started going through my career, this guy down in Atlanta named Greg Maddux, even Tommy Glavine, a left-handed pitcher, right-handed pitcher, guys didn't knock the bat out of anybody's hands. They just knew how to pitch. And both of them ended up winning over 300 ball games. But to watch Greg Maddux go out there and pitch and then becoming teammates with him for a couple of years and just watching him go about his business and how dominant he was throwing in the mid 80s. It's pretty impressive, and made guys look stupid and going back to the bench, scratching their head going, what the hell is going on? That to me was, was so, it was so much fun to be being able to see him as a pitcher, but being a teammate with him, picking his brain, and just see how humble and he's a nut job. He's a whack job. He's awesome. You wouldn't think without those glasses on, he's a scumbag, man. It's great. I love it.
He was known to be a practical joker. Do you have any Greg Maddux vignettes that you can share with us?
Oh, he was great. Like the day before he pitched, they always do the chart. So what he would do is he would get the starting pitchers, like we'd go in there in the clubhouse during a game and he'd be on the couch and he'd have the fart game. So he'd play the fart game and he'd keep score with everybody. And you do that. But the only way you can win is if you shard. If you shard, then you win the fart game. So I was just like, are you kidding me? So, sure enough, when Greg was pitching, everyone would load up the night before on some beans or whatever and sit there and try to win the fart game. It was funny. It was stupid little like that. But
what was it, first to 10 or what?
I think it was whatever it was until the game was over. But he started that in Chicago, and he told me that Carlos Zambrano, he got him into that game. And when Greg left Chicago, Zambrano called him. He goes, doggy, I win the game. I shit my pants or something like that. And Greg just started laughing. But, he would go in like the rookies. He'd go in there. He never wore shower shoes, never shaved. He was, he just had a big old bushel and he was just a hairy guy, loved hair. And like, he would go up to a rookie in the shower and start talking to him like that. And go, I was
come on.
And he would as he was talking to him. So he would do stuff like that, which is great. It's you're watching
great.
it off with soap and water.
That's super.
Yeah, but those are the stories those are fun. With a guy like that, you have to love it because he's not an aggressive guy. He likes to joke around. He's a hell of a golfer. Yeah. And I would I'll tell you next time I see you, but I would never say it on TV because then everyone think that I said it, and I don't want to throw him under the bus, but he's going to hell for that one. It was great too. It was great, but oops.
That's sorry. All right. You're good.
All right. So, but no, that's a good thing about Greg Maddux is that, you watch a guy that was he threw under the radar and just dominated everybody that was put in front of him. So that was awesome to watch. And
it sounds like you didn't have a filter.
No. Yeah. Don't let those glasses fool you. He's like David Cohn. Don't let the glasses fool you.
Hey, let me talk about the Yankees, the current Yankees. Just a couple of quick hitters for you here, buddy. Do you think Jarrett Cole is worth all that money the Yankees are paying him?
You know what, Mort? I tell you, get as much as you can while you can. So yes, he's worth it. The game has changed so much from when you played, when I played. I think when I started, it was 62.5. When I came in the league, I'm sure it was a lot lower for you
Yeah.
back when you came up.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and you went through the strikes. I went through 4 strikes, I believe, and just fighting for our peers to make more money
Yeah.
and do all that. But now these contracts are so astronomical and crazy. So yeah, you know what? If he goes out there and wins you 15 to 20 games a year, why not? Because if he doesn't, they'll let him know. The media will hammer him that he's the biggest bust for all that kind of money. They'll let him know.
I mean, is it World Series a bust for this Yankees team?
Well, they got to compete with my Padres. Those Padres are looking pretty good this year. And I grew up a Padre fan first, Yankee fan second. I would love to see both of those because we beat them in '98 in the World Series. But they've won 27. Padres have won 0. It'd be nice to see something like that in San Diego. I know I took a lot of heat. I said on Twitter, I mentioned that someone asked that question. I said I'm gonna root for the Padres, and I got killed on social media. But you know what? Hang with them. That's my team too as well. And I played for both my teams that I loved growing
Yeah.
up. So
Yeah.
that was, to me, that was a dream come true. If you want to have a dream come true, that's it. Playing for the 2 teams that you loved growing up. And so to me, it was, hopefully it's the Padres. But if the Yankees win, I'll be happy for them too.
So how close are the Padres, from being a real contender to winning the World Series? How close are they? I mean, they just signed Fernando Tatis, man, $340 million.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, how's a
and Machado,
22-year-old? How's he worth that? 22 years old.
Well, his dad wasn't worth that much, but his dad was a hell of a player. But that's what I'm saying. These contracts now that they're giving out is, inflation. Obviously, they're generating more money through TV revenue and all that stuff. But to me, to get these contracts are absurd. They're unheard of. But like I said, if you can get it, God bless you. Get it. Not everybody's getting it, but the Padres have been rebuilding and rebuilding since I left, since Greg Maddux left.
Mm-hmm.
And now they put it together. They went out and they got pitching. So they got the pitching, they've got the offense. So as long as they play sound, because to mention in your opening, for what is the most important about, the game of baseball, it's pitching. If you don't have pitching, it's not baseball.
Yeah.
So somebody needs to put out the fire. So you get the guys like Garrett Cole, you get Verlander, Scherzer, guys who could go out and stop good hitting. Because when you get a pitcher that can stop good hitting, you're going to win a lot of ball games, and that's where you're going to make your money. So the pitchers need to get that kind of money too.
All right, I got you. Duly noted. Duly noted.
Duly noted. Yes.
So let's go up the road to the Dodgers. Are we looking at the next dynasty there for the Dodgers? You had a quick cup of coffee with them.
I did.
What do you think about the Dodgers?
They're a very competitive team. They got some young studs over there, and they're having fun, and they're gelling together. I look at that team the last couple of years, and I look at that as the 97, 98 Yankees. We gelled. Everybody had fun. They were all on board. They were a family. And to me, in 97 and 98, even though we didn't win in 97, the unity that we had on that team, if anything was going on in the cloud, any animosity, any fusion between players was nipped in the butt, and that was it. And we went back to business, and when you have veteran guys who can run a clubhouse properly without bringing in the front office or the managers, you're doing good. And that's what I see in those Dodgers. They're really good. Dave Roberts, he's a play. He was a great player, but he's got a team, and he knows better. He's been around the block to let these guys play. So I'm sure he probably stays out of it. He might come in when he needs to, but he's not an aggressive guy. He's not an in-your-face kind of guy. So he's going to give you a couple options, in a quiet manner, and let these guys go. And these kids are studs. They're playing, and they got some hell of pitching too. So their pitching is going to be tough. But I think the Padres, it's their year. It's gut feeling.
I love it, man. I love it. I'd like to see San Diego go deep and hoist the trophy at the end. That'd be cool.
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, like I said, the Dodgers, they're in
I'm flying out, bro. I'm flying out. I'll buy my own seat, but you can get the tickets. I know you can.
I get them free for the rest of my life. So you and I will go.
You've heard it here. Everybody out there, man. No.
Hey, no, that's it. You're invited anytime.
I appreciate that, Boomer. Hey, what do you think about the Red Sox selling off so many of their great young players over the last few years to stay under that luxury tax? Is that bad for baseball to have such a prominent franchise prioritizing finances over winning?
Well, they put a string together there. They won a few World Series after the curse, the Bambino.
Yeah.
But to me, to have those type of impact players, there's got to be something more to it on the inside that I probably don't know. I mean, unless you're there, you would know. But to have one of the best players in the game, Mookie Betts, and you let him go, unless they know something that we don't, and they seen something in his game that was struggling, and they said he's not going to make it anymore. That's the only thing I can think of, because to compete with that type of, in the American League East, which is, is usually quoted as the toughest division in baseball. Yeah. To me, you got to keep up with them. And I don't know, Mr. Henry, the owner, great guy. Maybe he says it's time for a change and get under that luxury tax because they've been over it for so long. I think when you go over the 200 million, that's a lot of money you got to pay out, to the other teams and all that. So maybe he's just doing a financial thing and then rebuilding, seeing what they have in their system, because they got a good system. Pretty much every minor league team has a good minor league system, but until these guys groom and do that, maybe he wants to see that. Just toying with the fans' minds.
David, to finish up, I'd like to play the name game with you. So I'm going to throw some names at you, and whatever comes to mind when I say the name, go for it. Our late great Phil Niekro.
Nuxie, he was very unique, obviously, but just a competitor with the best knuckleball ever out there. His brother Joe, I knew very well. Yeah. But but the Nuxie, they named this hot bomb after him, the Nuxie juice, because it was hot bomb. You put it on you, and a lot of guys couldn't handle it, so they called it the Nuxie juice. So that's the Niekro.
Cal Ripken Jr.
Iron Man, 100%. Strong son bitch, that guy. Woo.
Deion Sanders.
A real chirper. Likes to hear himself talk a little bit, but what an athlete. What an athlete. Tremendous athlete.
George Steinbrenner.
The man, the boss, the legend. I loved him. I loved everything about it. And the thing about George, he was crazy too, but he backed it up. So the man.
Derek Jeter.
Mr. November. Mr. November. He's a legend.
Roger Clemens.
Unique. he was a stud. He's a stud. I mean, with all this controversy about him and steroids, he was a Hall of Famer before all that stuff. So, but competitor, 100% competitor.
Mariano Rivera.
He's the Sandman. And by the way, I gave him that song to go out to, by the way.
Tell me about that.
Well, everyone needs a theme song coming in. And I told Mo, I said, Mo, you got to come in as Inner Sandman. because I was a huge Metallica fan, still am,
So great.
and Trevor Hoffman came out to Hell's Bells by AC/DC.
That was
You
yours
know,
too?
no,
Oh, okay.
that wasn't me. I wish I could take credit for that. But Trevor, love him to death. But Mo, he needed something, and I gave it to him. I said, when you go to Cooperstown, you better give me a plug, and he never did. So, but it's all right. But that's the Sandman. He's the best. He's got the most, so he's the best.
Roy Halladay.
I loved Roy. I miss Roy, but Roy was, you know what? That dude, I mean, in one word, he became a complete player real quick. When he got humbled, he became a complete player. I was there when he was a rookie, and that was when I won 20 games that year in Toronto. I was pitching my butt off, and he was getting his ass handed to him. And he had better stuff than I did. And he just didn't know how to pitch. So they sent him to A-ball, and he came back a monster. So you know what? Let's call him a monster because he was so good.
I love it. David Ortiz.
Big sexy. The big sexy. That guy's he's full of life, probably more than anyone I've ever met in my life. That dude just likes to have fun. I just did his charity event a couple of weeks ago, and he's the same guy, retired as he was when he played. Give you the shirt off his back. The big sexy.
Manny Ramirez.
Oh, geez. A weird dude. A real weird dude, but what a player he was.
What do you mean weird dude?
He was just weird, man. He did stuff off the wall that you're like, where the hell did that come from?
Like what?
But man, just anything. Like he would, like when him and Pedro were hanging out, they did stupid little things that that would catch somebody's eye, and you're like, why the hell are they doing that? And I mean that in a good way. He was just a weird dude, but probably one of the best hitters out there. I'll tell you that. I'll take 10 of him, 100%. He was a stud.
Jose Canseco.
Dumbass. He ruined it for a lot of people. He was fun to watch in the beginning, but once steroids and all that took over, I was teammates with them. But to throw people under the bus because you didn't get all the recognition, as a dumbass.
Mike Piazza.
Tommy's boy, Lasorda's boy, I guess we'd say. But he turned out to be obviously a Hall of Famer, a hell of a hitter. He caught me for a brief moment, but I didn't really like him as a catcher, but what a competitor he was. And he was an impact in the game.
Trevor Hoffman.
Hoffy, just, gentleman and a scholar. Second best, reliever of all time, because Mo has more saves, so you got to go with Mo. But Trevor, and I had them both, saved my games. But you will never find a better human being than Trevor Hoffman. He is just a complete human being and goodwill.
And so are you, my friend. I appreciate your time today. I know you're a big supporter of our military, as am I. Talk to me about your foundation. Talk to me about what kind of impact you're making off the pitch. Is that the right thing to say? Off the mound, if you will.
Off the mound. Off
the mound, man.
Not off the tee, off the mound. You kicked off a tee.
Yeah. Well, no, I was off the ground.
No, not all the time. Yeah, but I don't know. Did you ever have to kick?
Kickoffs, but field goals were off the ground.
Off the ground, yeah.
And I've kicked off mounds. I've kicked off dirt too, infield dirt, in San Diego.
Oh, I know. I've seen you a few times out there.
Brutal.
No,
that and Candlestick Park was brutal.
I never played in Candlestick, but to me, like you say, like the quarterback controls game, the pitcher can close the game, but you need closers too. And you were the greatest closer. You and Adam Vinatieri
Thank you very much.
Are the greatest closers of all time when it comes to the NFL. That's for sure.
It was my pleasure to close, and I invited it, and I loved it. And you talked about Gibby and yourself. I feel that way about you, David, that it takes, I don't know, it's an acquired taste, but it also has to be built inside your DNA, man. And I just feel like you're that way. I feel I'm that way. I know Gibby's that way. And maybe that's why we're good friends. We get along, you know, off the field, off the pitch, if you will, and have fun, have a few cold ones, and play golf. But you do a great job with golf and with the military and raising a ton of money.
And that's what I love to do, Mort. I love doing that. The Perfect 33 Foundation. You know, I started to help our Navy SEALs for traumatic brain injuries.
Yeah.
So there was a facility in San Diego that we started off with, and getting them the help that they needed to make them a better husband, better father, get them back in, you know, into society without having to drink a fifth of whiskey, you know, to get all the demons out of their head, and, you know, and to really reduce suicide, you know, and to me, so I've done that for 5 years now. We've raised, you know, well over $1 million for the cause. And so I do a golf event every year in San Diego. And you know what? And now I'm inviting more and more team guys to play, retired and active. You know, since all the money's going to them, that's what we do. Every penny that we make goes to these guys for their help and get them to where they need to be. And, you know, and I know you're a huge military, you know, supporter as well. As you can see that nice flag, I've got one of those flags as well.
Oh yeah.
You know, and I love, my thing is now I love collecting the coins from all the team guys.
I got them all over the place here. And I'm going to start putting them into the rows behind me.
That's what I'm going to do when I build my house here in Florida, because we moved to Florida now.
Yeah.
So when I build my house here, I'm going to have a wall, because I have paddles and all that stuff and stuff that I've gotten at an auction, but meeting these guys. So that will be my new, like when we do these Zoom calls, I'm going to have the same thing you're having there, just all military, because you know what? We sleep good because of these guys.
Yes.
They don't get the credit that they deserve. No. You know, and I remember growing up as a kid, Mort, in San Diego, and these guys coming back from Vietnam. Okay. And, you know, they flirted. I lived in a beach town, and these guys would come back, some of them homeless, some of them really jacked up, getting criticized, spit on, ridiculed, all that kind of stuff. And I thought that's what we were supposed to do, because I was a young kid, and I'd see the way that they were treated, and everyone calling them, you know, baby killers and murderers and all this stuff. And it's like, those guys have gone on scene, but now they're starting to get the respect that they do. But back then, when you see that, it's pretty sad. And knowing what I know now, if I would have known back then, but I was a kid, you know, I would have tried to do something back then, because I grew up there in a Navy town, you know. So to me, it's just, they need to be more respected and get in the VA. I don't know about you, but I've heard horror stories about the VA with these guys, and they need to step up and make all these guys, you know, get them the help they need, and their families as well. You know, no questions asked. If they're going to give this $1.9 trillion stimulus pack for all this BS that's going on out there right now, give it to our military guys. They need it more so.
Amen. Amen to that. David, perfect game, brother. Perfect human being, perfect cause. And well, I don't know about perfect human being. That's maybe not such a thing, but pretty darn, in my book, pretty darn close.
We're legends in our own mind.
I roam freely in my mind.
There you go. So do I.
And there's lots of space in there, apparently. A lot of empty space. It's been fun. It's been fun. And the technology worked, brother. Frustration levels down to a minimal again. You can go have a cold one, relax the rest of the day, go have some birdies.
That's definitely on my agenda.
Rest assured that what you have been a part of today will be everywhere.
I appreciate it.
And we will spread the love, just like you have for so many years, for so many people. Thank you, David.
Thank you, Mort. Appreciate having me on, and good luck going forward, and can't wait to see you again, buddy.
Can't wait to see you, man. Let's do it quickly.
All right. Sounds good.